Heading out on his first visit abroad since taking office, President Rivlin was welcomed by his Polish counterpart this morning at a state ceremony in Warsaw. We get more in this report from IBA's Margo Dukevich.
Polish President Bronisław Komorowski welcomed President Rivlin this morning at an official state ceremony in Warsaw that marked the start of Rivlin's first official visit abroad. The two were expected to discuss an array of issues, including regional events and enhancing economic ties between the two countries, and sign an agreement to advance research and development between Jerusalem and Warsaw. Rivlin will meet with other Polish government leaders during the two-day visit and will also address the Polish Parliament in Hebrew. Both presidents will inaugurate the Polin Museum of the History of Polish Jews in Warsaw, which stands on the historic site of the Warsaw Ghetto uprising. The building faces the monument of the Warsaw Ghetto heroes. The Polish government financed the building of the museum at a cost of more than $60 million. The remaining funds were donated by the Association of the Jewish Historical Institute in Poland.
This museum will help people be less ignorant. My dream is that every non-Jew who visits will leave knowing more about Judaism and Jews, and that every Jew that visits will know more about Poland and the rich cultural experience of Poland.
Prior to his departure for Poland, President Rivlin described the visit an important one that merges the past, present and future. Margo Dudkiewicz, IBA News.
Joining me now in the studio is Polish expert Laurence Weinbaum from the World Jewish Congress. Thank you very much for coming in this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Is the opening of a Jewish museum in Warsaw a sincere attempt by Polish society to confront its past?
I believe that it certainly is a sincere attempt by elements in Polish society to address a gaping hole in Polish collective memory. We have to remember that until 1939, there were 3.25 million Jews in Poland. They constituted 10% of the population, and they were a very visible element of the Polish landscape. And we remember, of course, between 1939 and 1945, the destruction of Polish Jewry. And in the years immediately after the war, and unfortunately our time is limited, there was an attempt, you could say, basically, whether through acts of omission or commission, to excise the Polish presence from the Polish landscape. And this is an attempt, of course, after the fact, to try somehow to restore it.
Many Jews and non-Jews, for that matter, make pilgrimage to Poland, if not entirely, but mostly aimed at visiting concentration camps. Do you expect that this museum, this exhibit that's just been opened, will now become part of these journeys' itineraries?
I don't doubt that it will become a part of the itinerary of most travelers to Poland, whether Jews or non-Jews. But I think at the end of the day, this museum is, above all, aimed at Polish visitors. It's for Polish society, not less than for Jews, and perhaps even more so. And I think it will do a lot to explain to Jews and non-Jews that the Polish presence in Poland cannot be reduced to the terrible experiences of the war years and the attempt to physically eliminate Polish Jewry, but also it will tell the story of the 1,000-year history of Jews in Poland, which is a story of course, of tragedy, but it's also a story of great triumph. We cannot forget that Poland was a hothouse of Jewish creativity that affected Jews well far beyond the borders of Poland.
And incredible accomplishments as well. Now, the Polish president sent his own plane to pick up President Rivlin for what has become his first trip abroad as the ceremonial leader of Israel. Is it fair to say that the two governments are close and that perhaps Poland may be Israel's best friend in Europe today?
I frankly never like to use superlatives, but there's no question that Poland is one of our best friends in Europe. And the bilateral relations between the two countries are very close indeed. And there's every reason to expect that they will continue to remain that way for the foreseeable future.
And why is that? Well, why is it as strong as it is?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to also look at the historical context. And Despite the tragic episodes in our common history, there is a certain common understanding between Jews and Poles that we don't necessarily have with other societies in Europe. Of course, I'm reducing a complex story into just a few
Right.
words, but there is a degree of understanding, and many Poles will tell you who visit Israel that they don't feel at home in any country the way they do in Israel.
Interesting. Well, Laurence Weinbaum, thank you very much for being with us today and sharing your insight.
Thank you again.
Thank you.